So I'm going live for the first time, and I want to welcome you to my new series called AGTV, where I'll be breaking down all the tips and tricks for starting your fashion brand. So I'm Angela George, and on today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about the pros and cons of selling wholesale. So for those of you that don't know, wholesale means when you are selling to the retail stores. So you could either be selling to brick and mortar retail, or you could be selling to wholesale, to online platforms that carry a lot of different brands. So you're basically characterized as a wholesale brand when you're selling to other people that are reselling your merchandise. So I'm going to start with the cons first of selling wholesale. So one of the cons is that you have to create your collection about 6 to 9 months in advance, depending on how, where your fabric is from, and if you're doing prints or embroideries or things like that. So depending on how detailed your garments are and where they're made, you have to begin 6 to 9 months in advance. So that's the creation process. And then from the time you have to make the samples, and then the samples have to go into a showroom, and then the showroom has to sell to the retailer. And then when the retailer buys it, it's usually not being shipped for another 3 months. So it's a pretty long runway. So the second con would be that you have to have a wholesale distribution. So which means you either have to have your own showroom or your own salesperson who sells your brand, or you put it into what's called a multi-line showroom. And when you're putting your brand in a multi-line showroom, you're going to be paying about 12 to 15% commission to that showroom. You're also going to be expected to pay, in most cases, a showroom fee, which is a monthly fee. It could be $500, $1,000, $1,500 a month, just in what they call a showroom fee. And then if there are any trade shows that the showroom does, you're expected to pay for those trade shows. So you pay for the trade show, and they'll staff it and sell it and follow up and present you with the orders. But it's a big outlay of money either way. Even if you have a person in-house and you're doing trade shows, there are large trade show expenses. So that is another con, having, those expenses. And then I would say the third con is that to create your collection, it's costly to create a sample line. When you're making one-offs, depending if you have one showroom or two showrooms, you might have regional showrooms throughout the country. You might have a showroom in New York, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Dallas, Chicago, or usually brands start out with like one or two showrooms like New York and LA or something. And so that could be one or two samples of each a thing in each style in your collection. But when you're making one or two pieces, it's much, much, much more costly than when you're making multiples of things, when you're making like a small production run. So, oftentimes a first sample can cost in the hundreds of dollars just for one sample. So, and that's your salesperson sample line. So you have that expense. Another is that you're working on a much lower margin. So you have to sell your merchandise. So the retailer that you're selling it to, they basically do like a 2.2, 2.3 markup. So, if you're selling something for $10, they could be selling it for anywhere from like $24 to $26, to the consumer. So, you basically have to have a small margin. Whereas if you're going from your cost to retail, that's a much, much bigger margin. So the third con, I'm on the fourth con. So the fourth con is that you are lower margins. Then you also have expense of photo shoots. You have to do photo shoots. You have to cast models and do photo shoots, and you have to have images to give to your stores, whoever you're selling to. Oftentimes, they also want to see pictures of your collection on models before they even make purchases. That helps them in their purchasing when they see it on a model. So that's an expense right there. Also, you may need to be on a retail, basically a platform where the retailers go. There are these wholesale platforms. One, in fact, is called Jour. Another one is called New Order, where you basically upload. It's a platform that is between you and the retail stores. You upload your images, you upload all your product information, and the retailers can go onto that website and they could purchase from there. But to be on that platform, you have to spend, it could be $1,000 a month, maybe more, depending. So it's an expense to have to be on that platform where the retailers go. So that's another expense. So again, a con. Also, the retailers can also basically mold you into what they want from you. For instance, like you could have an amazing collection, but if they're buying, I'm just making it up, say you have denim on your line and they're already buying denim from, Mother and just like different denim brands like J brands or, Current Elliott, whatever denim brands they're buying, they might look at you and they might say, you know what, I don't really need the denim from you because I buy it from these other collections. And your denim could be amazing, but the retailer doesn't want to buy it from you because they buy it from other collections. So that's where they can kind of buttonhole you into certain categories. And so that's a con, I think. And then also you can get cancellations. A buyer can place an order and a couple months later, she decides she has, her budget is off and she needs to cut back on her orders and she'll cancel the order. And you really don't have recourse. You really don't have recourse. I've been doing this a long time and it's kind of like goes with the territory. You just got to like take the cancellation. And another thing also, as far as that goes, is that if you're late for any reason, say that you're, somehow something happened with your production and your production came in late, which is like, it happens sometimes. I mean, hopefully you have it in a rhythm that doesn't happen often, but sometimes it happens and things are out of your control. Fabric comes late, things happen. So you might be late to the stores at that point, and the stores have the right to cancel once you're late. So that's another thing that could happen is you can get cancellations if you're late. Another thing that happens is the stores want to return stuff. Sometimes they just decide my customer didn't like it. It's not for them and I don't want this anymore and you need to take it back. And they could be very adamant about it. And they could tell you, if you don't take it back, I'm not going to do business with you. So, or they want you to take it back. They want to switch for something else that you might have in stock, and oftentimes between cancellations and other people wanting to return stuff, you kind of end up with some merchandise, in stock. Also, another con is that you can make it, you don't get a cancellation, but when you go to ship it, the customer doesn't want it and they don't want to pay for it. Or they say they have no money. So you've produced this order, you've shipped it to the store, and then the merchandise comes back to you. They call it bouncing the box. So they don't take the goods in, or they, when you go to get, a lot of times they pay credit card if they don't have terms, which is, and I'm not going to get into that now, but if they pay, a lot of them will pay credit card and you'll call them to run their credit card and the credit card won't go through, or they don't get back to you with the credit card number because a lot of times they use different credit card numbers. So you don't usually have anything on file and you have to get approval at the time of shipment. So that's another way that you can be stuck with merchandise. So that's another con. So those are the cons. And then I'll go into the pros. So I will say one of the pros is that you'll have multiple channels of distribution. So you're not just selling it on your website or through Instagram, but you can have multiple channels, multiple stores all over the world, like globally, in fact, that, your merchandise could be in, which is great. So you have a lot of eyeballs on your brand, which is wonderful. So that's a con. That's a pro. That is a pro. So another is that the stores can actually, when they go into the stores, they can see, feel, and touch your product and try it on. If you're just doing something online and it's direct to consumer and it's online only, the customer doesn't have that opportunity to really feel the merchandise, to try it on, to see how it fits, how it's made, how it feels, things like that. So that's a pro, to be able to be in physical retail stores and be having it try it on. Another pro is that you get bulk orders. So once you get all the orders from the different stores, you could be cutting a few hundred pieces of a style. Whereas if you're just going online, direct to consumer, like, you might sell like one and one and one and another one. And, you don't really get that momentum. So to be able to, have sell your line, get all the stores together, put all the orders together and be able to sell a few hundred of something, so that's a higher volume, which is great, easier for production, costs come down. You meet the fabric minimums because fabrics have minimums. And if you can't meet the minimum, you can't produce the order. So meeting the minimums, and then costs coming down in terms of cutting. The more you cut, the more units you cut, the less expensive it gets. So you definitely get to save on the cost when you have a higher volume. And then also you can cut to order. So sometimes on direct to consumer, if the stores don't want to wait, sometimes brands will step out and they will create some inventory. And that's always risky. That's always a risky game to create inventory when you don't know that you have orders. So you get to cut to order. You get to accumulate all the orders. And now I've sold 200 pieces. I'm going to cut 200 pieces. So that's a great pro. Another pro is that the buyers can be a source of valuable feedback. So when you're showing your line to buyers, because the buyers shop the whole market, they know what's happening. And sometimes they can make a suggestion about your brand, or they can tell you, hey, what if you made it this way? I think you could sell a lot. So you can get some valuable feedback when you're dealing with a lot of buyers, retail buyers. So that's a great thing. And then also stores, when you're new, especially being in a retail store, could add credibility to your brand because you're new and nobody knows you. But if they see it in their favorite boutique or their favorite online platform, or possibly if you get to sell into a department store, for instance, that's something that lends credibility to your brand because you're in these retail stores. So that's it for what I have for the pros. So those are the pros and cons. And in another episode, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the way the industry has been changing and what's happening right now. And the department stores, obviously, it's a very challenging business right now with COVID, and everyone's been challenged. But I think I want to bring some content that really speaks to what's happening right now. But for right now, I just wanted to give you the pros and cons of wholesale. And if you have any questions, drop down into the comments and leave the questions. I'll try to answer them in other episodes. And then the other thing is, if you like the content, please subscribe, please like, and share this content. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. So bye for now. Bye for now.